Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whenever you're watching this motherfucking episode. The Blitz, we're back, and football is back. College football, we had a weekend of that, a whole weekend of upsets. I mean, if you haven't tuned into the tailgate, I mean, you got to be getting that tailgate trash talk in this week. There is plenty of shit to talk about. I mean, we could talk about LSU. We could talk about all kinds of shit. It'll definitely be interesting to see. Be sure you tune in there. It airs out tomorrow night. And is it going to be you and Stove running that one?
Yes, sir. Stove and I will be on.
Hell yeah. And then Rosenbaggers follows, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And be sure to catch Mr. Ty Havernack out there as well.
Yes, sir.
I also thought at one point in time that may or may not have been a pseudonym for Gary after tonight's discussion in the mailbag. But we will be in our bag tonight. It's going to be a nice short and sweet episode for you. But let's dive into NFL Week 1. We're going to just jump right into our predictions moving forward. We're going to try to, debrief the preview and review rather. But Gary, you and I, Week 1 or Thursday Night Football, 8:20 Eastern on NBC. Gary Free Sr. Good to see you, sir. As always. You and I together, we're on the same page. It's Bills Mafia. I know Andy doesn't like the word mafia, but against the defending Super Bowl champions or the reigning Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, for me, I think that Buffalo's in a place right now where they're on a mission. Last year, it felt like the Rams were kind of on that same mission, bringing in Stafford, and all the other superstars that they went and got, Beckham and Von Miller, and of course they've been adding guys, Jalen Ramsey via trade, and they're all in, and as Les Snead says, fuck them picks, right? They're just going to continue this ride as long as they can continue to keep the ship afloat, and they've been doing a damn good job of juggling the cap and not having draft picks and hitting on guys in the middle rounds because they have been trading away all those first and second round picks. So, I think it's going to be a great game. I fully expect both teams to come out of the gate strong. But for me, I just feel like this is a year that Buffalo is so singularly focused. They're so bitter about the way last season ended. And this has kind of been 2 years in the the build up to this year for Buffalo, and I think it gets started on Thursday night. Expect a shootout. Expect a lot of fireworks. If you're betting on the line, I think it's like 51 or 52 right now. I would go over. I think this thing's going to get into the 30s. I think we're looking at something that's going to be 34-31, 35-33, something along those lines. It's going to be a fun one. Josh Allen, he's going to show his whole ass. And, of course, Matt Stafford has already proven exactly what he can do with weapons around him. And the Rams added, right? They went and got Allen Robinson, who's a guy who's been underrated for a long time. I think he'll thrive in this offense. So I think we're going to see a lot of fireworks from this game. A couple of really good defenses that are just going to be kind of left on an island with these two quarterbacks that are just going to light it up. So I'm excited for Thursday. And I've got the Bills winning in a shootout.
Shootout indeed. That's a guarantee. This is going to be fireworks. This is going to be a great way to kick off the NFL season. We've got two dudes with kind of a, I guess Stafford doesn't necessarily have a chip on his shoulder, but he's got something to prove in that this that wasn't a dud year. It wasn't an anomaly. They're not rebuilding anymore. They're reloading, and they have every right to say so. So I'm really curious to see how the elbow looks or how it performs. Um, I'm curious to see how the improvements we'll see out of the Bills offense. I'm man, they're just again Super Bowl favorites for me, so it makes sense.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm excited to see the other side of the ball for Buffalo if Von Miller's going to be able to make an impact. They've been trying for 2 years now to really build up this pass rush. They've drafted a bunch of guys, Ed Oliver, and last year they drafted Phillips, and they keep adding and adding, adding to the defensive line. And you go get a guy with the pedigree of Von Miller, who did make an impact for the Rams last year. You have to figure he's got 2, 3, probably years in the tank. If he gives you even just one spectacular year being in 2022 here, I think that's something that could put the Bills over the top. They call him the finisher, right? A lot of places talk about how he finishes games, finishes sacks, right? Sacks that most guys can't finish. He's able to turn the corner and get there. So that's going to make a difference, I think, for this Bills defense. And don't overlook the fact that they're getting Trey White back. In week 6, 7, 8, somewhere around there. He's on the pup to start the season, but they're going to take their time with somebody who's arguably the best defensive back in the league. So for me, the Bills they've got a clear focus on what they want to do. That's shut down the big passers and the Mahomes especially, right? That's who they've been targeting. We've got to shut down Mahomes and beat the Chiefs, and I think that's what they've really built up to this year with the addition of Miller and of course everything they've got, 2 All-Pro safeties, and I think that's what we're going to see from Buffalo. I'm excited to see what Von Miller can bring to that defense.
I think that there's no doubt that we're going to see some type of improvement, and it's also going to speak a lot to Von Miller's impact to the Rams defense as well. So this is I'm kind of digging that for sure. That's a great thing to think about going into this Thursday night game coming up. So moving into our 1 p.m. slots, let's just go in a book left to right. Saints Falcons 1 p.m. Eastern time on Fox. Saints Falcons, all of us unanimous that the Falcons are in fact the dumpster fire that we think they are, and that Matt Ryan was the last little resemblance of structure that could have been there, and it is no longer, especially now that Ridley's out. So, I mean, is there anything of value to really talk about here? Are we looking for anything in particular from the Saints, or is this kind of like they're going to get away with a lucky game and they're not really going to have a chance to show their ass in this one?
I think what you're looking for, especially if you're a Saints fan, right, or if you're somebody who, like myself, has picked the Saints to make the playoffs on a wild card spot, you're looking to see what Jameis Winston looks like. Is he healthy? Because we saw last year when Jameis Winston went down, they were bad at the quarterback position, and that's really what cost them. They were a good team last year with a really good defense that could have made a playoff run. They still won some games, even despite the poor play of Taysom Hill. So that's, I think, the biggest focus is going to be, will the Saints offense be able to keep up with that defense this year? Because that defense, they went and they reloaded a little bit, drafted a couple of guys that should be contributors. We know that that's a known entity. Right now, I think this game is going to be a nice little tune-up for them to see kind of where Jameis Winston is in his recovery from the injury and how much, guys like Chris Olave, who are expected to contribute on the offensive side of the ball as a rookie, how much they can pick the offense up and get going. So I think the Saints are fortunate to have the Falcons, who are in a full rebuild. There's no ifs, ands, buts, or secrets about it. So I think this one for the Saints, nice little kind of crutch game to start the season off and give Jameis an opportunity against a lesser opponent. Not that any NFL team it's just a dud, but give him an opportunity, not facing the Bucs to start the season, to get back in the swing of things and get back accustomed to the speed of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think about this as more of a calibrating kind of game. They're going to get a chance to kind of they're going to get it some good film and make some adjustments. And fortunately for the Saints, it's against the fucking Falcons. So good on. On to another good one, and this one's kind of spicy. I mean, we did have another house divided here in the same fashion as LA Buffalo here, is Browns Panthers. So the obvious animosity that Baker's going to have going into this home game, I might add.
Yeah.
His new home. And he said, He's just saying he's going to drop his nuts on these folks. Andy seems to think that the Browns are gonna have the edge. There's an argument to it.
I think his, and I don't want to speak for him necessarily, but you know
what? He bailed. You could speak for him.
Well, he has said, last week when we were talking playoff predictions, that he thinks the Panthers are going to be bad, and that's, I think that's what he
bases of bad is that he's thinking that they're going to lose to the quarterbackless
Browns, right? So I think that speaks more. I think that speaks a little more to where he feels this game is, as opposed to thinking the Browns are going to be really good without Deshaun Watson. But look, they've got Chubb, they've got Kareem Hunt backing him up. Maybe they can get enough out of that ground game to score some points. And the Browns defense is going to be good this year, but I think the Panthers defense is going to be really good. And of course, the health of McCaffrey is going to be a big difference in this. And they have him for this game. Hopefully they'll have him for the whole game and hopefully for the whole season. But for me, I just don't think the Browns have enough firepower. They not only are they quarterbackless, but they don't really have anything at wide receiver that scares you. You know what I mean? They added Amari Cooper. I think you can speak for, what Amari Cooper brings to the table. He's not a world beater showstopper, so not a lot scares you outside of Chubb and Hunt. So
he hasn't been a WR1 in a while. So just be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So then that's fair again. I do feel like Andy's being a little petty with it, but like whatever. He's entitled to that. We're all unanimous in this next one, and that's San Francisco at Chicago. Even though Chicago's at home, they're just going to get their ass whipped in front of their home fans. And really, this is going to be similar to the story with Atlanta, New Orleans. This is going to be another, we need to see what San Francisco is going to do, because that's the horse we're betting on. Obviously, it's nothing against Justin Fields, but he's in kind of a lost cause for now. And there's some shit brewing in San Fran, and we need to figure out what it is. Is Jimmy G going to get the start? Is Trey Lance going to get it's just...
Look, if you're Kyle Shanahan, you couldn't start against probably a better opponent when you're starting a new quarterback.
Except for maybe the Falcons.
Maybe the Falcons, right? Or the Giants. There's a couple of teams. This is one of those that you look at as one of those kind of likely basement teams. I love Justin Fields. I feel really bad for the guy, because I think if he goes, most other places in the top 15 last year, he's probably going to have a chance to succeed. Chicago was just such a dumpster fire last year. It's going to take them a long time to recover. But I think if anybody's level of talent and maturity can overcome some of that adversity he's going to face, I think Justin Fields is capable. Now, just how quickly can the Bears organization build around him? That's going to dictate whether or not he's successful in Chicago, or if he's looking for a new team after his rookie deal. Looking at it from the other side with San Francisco, you want to get out the gates quick with Trey Lance. You don't want to have the questions about Jimmy G like you just asked, right? You want to be able to put those to bed. You want Trey Lance to come out and have a nice, comfortable, smooth game. And they're playing a Bears team that, quite frankly, doesn't have much left on defense. They're still kind of feuding with Roquan Smith about his contract. They traded Khalil Mack away for a pack of green gummy bears. And it's one of those things that, if you're the Niners, this is kind of a prime opportunity to say, this is our guy. This could be a confidence builder for Trey and be something that propels him to be that 17-game starter, where the obvious rumblings for Jimmy G don't ever surface because he's playing well.
Yeah, that's fair. I have no interest in this game in general.
No, I think it's going to be a wash. I think me at quarterback for San Fran, they'd win by 25. Honestly, they're just that much more talented than the Bears. These two teams are polar opposites, right? One's got Super Bowl aspirations, and one of them is wondering who they might draft with the first pick that'll help them with grooming Justin Fields. That's just kind of the dichotomy of this with these two teams.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you've got you've got fucking Bubba sitting in a Formula One car, and then you got Mario Andretti sitting in a wheelbarrow. It's kind of what
Basically,
you're dealing with.
it
A
sort of is,
driverless
right?
F1 car, yeah, and then you've got an absolute stud who could probably crush it in San Francisco.
Right.
God, what a shame. Anyways,
It sucks.
on
I
to
feel for Justin Fields, man,
yeah, yeah. I mean, somebody needs to scoop that kid up before he gets injured beyond repair.
for sure.
On to the Steelers. Speaking of injured beyond repair, Steelers and Bengals here. Coach Tomlin gonna try to stick it to him at home, but the boys here at Backyard Sports say no, not happening. Tiger King is going to continue his reign in his division, and it's going to start out with a nice, comfortable Week 1 win against the Steelers. So, no objections there from Gary. Is there an argument to the contrary? Is there anything you want to see out of the Steelers? I mean, obviously, we think the Bengals are going to be firing on all cylinders. They've added some additional protection on the offense, but this isn't really the defense that's going to show that real improvement yet. But what are you looking to see from the Steelers?
Yeah, I mean, if the Steelers are going to win, that defense is going to have to play to the level that we saw at times last year, right? T.J. Watt with 20
Yeah,
sacks.
at times, right.
Right. They've got to be consistent, and they're going to have to bring it against the Bengals. They're going to have to take one of the best quarterbacks in the league and maybe the best wide receiving core in the league and take them out of the game. Because if the Bengals score 24, you're not going to beat them. I don't think the Steelers' offense this year is going to be capable of putting up 24 to 28, even in the 30s on a regular basis. So the Bengals defense is pretty good, as we saw last year in the playoffs as well. They had their moments where they were pretty good. So I just think that what you're looking for with the Bengals is how quickly can that offensive line gel, because there's a lot of new faces, right? Can they gel? Can they get on the same page against a good pass rush? Because that's what the Steelers do have, is, maybe the best pass rusher in the game right now in TJ Watt. Can they gel on that offensive line, protect Joe Burrow, protect that investment that you made, that you're making in him, prove good on all of this investment that you had in the offensive line in the offseason. On the flip side for the Steelers, what you're looking for is that young core to do something here over the course of this season. This, I think they're all aware this is a rebuilding year for the Steelers. If they've got something in Kenny Pickett, the question is going to be, what do they have around him, right? Is Deontay Johnson the answer long-term? Should they pay him to keep him around as a playmaker, as a leader in that receiver room? Is George Pickens going to be a stud, right? He's been awesome in the preseason. Can he make good on that in the regular season and become a true number 2 or maybe even a number 1 and let Deontay Johnson just kind of be a playmaker? So that's what – and then, of course, Najee Harris, right? Can he take that next step and be a little more consistently productive? Because we saw him look stuck in the mud at times last year because of that offensive line. Is that O-line going to get better? So for the Steelers, really, starting with Week 1 against a team with Super Bowl aspirations, obviously played in last year's Super Bowl, you're looking for the Steelers to say, we've got something for the future that we're not going to spend the next 5 years trying to recover from the Ben Roethlisberger loss.
They've got to get it figured out in early. And
I do think it was the right decision to go with Trubisky, right? As 100%. Much as I don't like Trubisky
100%. I am not trying to hear that there was a better option in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
there wasn't.
I think
Big Ben gives Trubisky to start. I mean, come on, you're getting the nod from the OG. Just call it.
And I love Pickett, right? Like I said last year, he was the most NFL ready prospect.
He's going to be a great understudy, and at least for a season.
Give him the first 6-8 games if you guys are 1-6, 1-7, 2-6, that sort of thing, halfway through the season. Then you start to look at, okay, how do we get him reps in favorable scenarios to prepare for next year? Because if he's your future, you don't want to mortgage that future right away. Let Trubisky, the offensive line is still a work in progress. Trubisky's athletic. We've seen him be able to move. He's also a guy that's not just going to get punch drunk like a rookie. So you don't want to ruin what you've got in Pickett for the next, 10, 12, 15 years, a plug and play guy, hopefully, right? If you're the Steelers, you hope he's that guy. You don't want to throw him out there too soon. and ruin that. Give him 6-8 games to stand on the sideline and see just how fast the NFL game moves. Then you bring him in and you let him kind of work through some of the kinks at the end of the season that might present themselves for a rookie, and then build to next year. So it's all about the young core. Starting right here in game 1, it's all about the young core for the Steelers.
Absolutely. This is definitely some rebuilding years. I would love to see a situation where Tomlin continues the streak. But I also don't have a doubt that Tomlin is going to make this team a problem very soon.
Yeah, and I think
that's just
they're going to surprise some people this year too, because like we said, that defense at times last year looked unbelievable. Then there were other games that they couldn't stop anybody, but I just think that if they're going to win 8 games, 9 games, if they're going to continue that streak, that defense is going to have to hold teams to 13 to 17 points a game.
Exactly. Gary, you're going with the fucking Lions, and I love it. Because fuck the Eagles, and I feel like a cuck for going for them, but I do feel like they've got enough to beat the, like we talked about the Saints being the Falcons here. It's like they're not this greatest team here. They may not even win the division, but they're damn sure going to beat the Lions. So what's there's still a controversy on who's even going to call the offense. I mean, Dan Campbell just today in an interview is talking about, well, we don't know. It's going to be good. He says it's going to be good. He said he wants to call.
Has Dan Campbell earned the Bill Belichick respect for us to just say, yeah, they'll figure it out, right? For him to just say, I don't know who's going to call it, but it's going to be good. Trust me.
But I just feel like from an organizational perspective that, they failed him.
I think it's honestly like it's just the way he is. And yeah, Dad, I know the Eagles are the popular pick right now to win the division. Right. And
right.
Some people are even saying to make a run deep in the playoffs. Some people are calling their offensive line the best in the league. Apparently they forgot Indianapolis is still fielding a team and Cleveland's still fielding a team. And like, let's pump the fucking brakes on best offensive line in the league, because it's good. It's good. But there's a handful out. The Titans still have a fucking team. Like, come on, guys. Let's not forget about these teams that are fielding
that offense is
3 all-pros on their fucking offensive lines.
You're right.
But anyway,
that team has been so good that Tannehill's had a chance to be reviewed as a decent quarterback.
Let's pump the brakes a little on the Eagles O-line. But the Eagles, they stock the shelves, right? But I'm going to default back to what I said last week. I just feel like this year there's a lot of hype around the Eagles. They went and traded and brought in guys, and I don't know that Sirianni's the guy that's going to be able to wrangle all this. And
not a chance.
I get sort of the same feeling as we got back in the Vince Young year, like the dream team. Like, I don't know that Philly's going to make good. I don't trust Hurts. So I'm starting right here in week 1. I'm going to say, and I'm on record as saying I think the Lions are going to be vastly improved this year. I think they've got an outside shot at making the playoffs if they can steal a couple of these games. This is one of those games. If they can steal a couple of these games, they're going to beat some of the average to below average teams. If they can steal a game here against the Eagles and maybe a game later in the season against the Vikings and or the Packers, like, that's a team that I think is going to be close to winning 8, 9 games. And I think in a weaker NFC, 9 games might get you in on a wild card. I love what they've done defensively. I love what they've done on the offensive line. I loved the Sewell pick last year. Goff, for everything that everybody says about him with the fumble problems, he completed 70% of his passes last year. He's a guy that can manage the game as long as he can just rein in the turnovers. And of course, I'm asking a lot, I know. But I like St. Brown. I like Jameson Williams eventually being out there on the field and being a superstar for them. I know he's not going to play in this game, but I do like what the Lions are doing and building toward, and I think they're going to surprise the Eagles in week 1 here.
I just feel like you're trying to say that there are situations where you cannot name, or you're claiming that the Lions are a top 7 team in the NFC, and that's a lot to say.
I don't think I would go as far as to say I think they're a top 7 team. So there's a difference for me.
To secure a spot in the playoffs. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. And if I did power rankings right now, I would not have the Lions in a playoff position, right? And I didn't have them in a playoff position last week. But I do see a scenario where if they steal this game, if
in
they
schedule
steal another
coincidence,
game, right? Like it's things have to break their way. They're not a team that is secure in a playoff spot. So I'm not going as far as to say I think they're better than the Saints. I don't think they're better than the Panthers or the 49ers on paper. But I do think that this is a team that should one of those two teams scuffle, or if the Lions are able to steal a couple of games, and they're going to play hard. They love Dan Campbell. And there's something to be said about loving a guy and playing hard for a guy. It's like you mentioned with Tomlin a moment ago. If anybody's going to rally the troops, right, it's Mike Tomlin. I think Dan Campbell has a little bit of that. He's a real kind of clumsy meathead gorilla, but he gets guys fired up. They were an awful team last year, 3 wins at the end of the season, but they played hard in every fucking minute of every game. They had some really good teams on the ropes. I love what they're doing, and I love where Campbell's taking that team.
And agreed. And I really liked your point about Sirianni. He's not going to be it, man. Not to wrangle those troops. It's not going to happen. I think
he struggles managing a game. How's he going to manage a locker room with that many personalities?
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah, his personalities with his bullshit analogies are just enough for me. Yeah, I'm good. All set. Terrible. All right, so another one that we're unanimous on here, Colts at Houston. Are we, and I guess we'll keep it brief as we're approaching halfway here, are we underestimating the Texans? And I'm not just talking about, I do feel like the Colts are the better team here. They're the safer, they're the obvious pick, but are the Texans still going to be a problem this year in the AFC? The toughest division in football. Conference, rather.
I do think that they are. I mentioned it last week and got laughed at by both you and Andy, but
and I've thought about it since, and I feel like
I actually considered them ever so slightly as a wild card team last week. And then I just kind of looked at their schedule and I said, well, I don't expect them to beat the Colts. I do think the Colts are a better team. I do think the Titans are a better team if they can split. And to be completely honest, I was very close to going a little bit with my heart and picking the Texans in this game because they're home and thinking they'll split the season series with Indy home and home. But in the end, I look at what Indy brings to the table. That defense should be better this year as long as Shaquille, now I forget his fucking last name, but changed his first, Leonard. Darius Leonard changed his name to Shaquille Leonard, or didn't change his name, but went back to Shaquille. As long as he comes back and he's healthy, the general of that defense, the defense should be what we expect them to be. They were a little down last year, but Jonathan Taylor, he's unbelievable. Matt Ryan, if he's going to make an improvement in that locker room, they're going to be a better team, right? As people are expecting. I'm not, but I'm saying hypothetically, if he does improve the quarterback play there in Indianapolis, I think that they're going to be a 10, 11, 12 win team. And I think they're just better than the Texans if all those things are true. And I think you could just turn around and hand it off to Jonathan Taylor and be pretty safe.
100%. And that offensive line will make sure he goes where he needs to.
Mm-hmm.
So onward to Patriots. Another one unanimous here. Patriots at Miami.
I am very surprised that this was unanimous. I am very surprised.
I admittedly waffled here.
I waffled really hard here.
Well, because it immediately comes down to Mac versus Tua for me, and I'm picking Mac 10 out of 10 times. But when I look at the receiving core, I mean, the addition of Reek is kind of the game changer for me. Like, Mac doesn't have that kind of explosive presence.
And by the way, Jalen Waddle set the rookie record for catches last year. And just in case you forgot, he's still on the roster,
And Billy Belly's not going to have that type of flashy guy on the roster with the Mac Jones at the helm. It's not going to happen.
Right.
So, yeah, it's Tua for me, and I think the Tyreek Hill edition is the difference maker.
You know what this came down to for me, to be honest, and it's a weird it's a weird stat that exists in in the AFC East pretty exclusively because they've got a Florida team and all the other teams are in the Northeast. Miami in September is very, very, very tough for these Northeast teams. The Patriots, even under Brady, when Brady was still there, they struggled a lot of times when they had Miami.
Or what?
Yeah, the heat, the humidity, it just seems to take it out of teams. The Bills, they struggle when they go down to Miami. The Jets, like these Northeast teams, they struggle. And listen, as a Northeast guy, I can tell you, when we used to go to Florida for college baseball and when we used to go to Mayport in the Navy, I was fucking miserable. So I can sympathize. But it's this anomalous stat that in the NFC or the AFC East, teams struggle when they have to go down to the Florida Heat.
Suck.
Dude, Florida's brutal.
I mean, yeah, it's
but that's what it came down to for me.
Damn, it's tough. Yeah. So like Tom Brady's basically a god already, but the idea that he can thrive well and win Super Bowls in both climates, the man's a savage. Fucking savage. That's goat shit right there. All right, so fair enough. Miami's going to take the dub at home, start the season. Okay, another unanimous here. We're going to roll through these. Baltimore at the Jets. I mean, Lamar Jackson being healthy is going to be the big game changer here. We want to see him have this explosive. And this is going to be another one where, like we've talked about with a few of these other matchups, where the Jets are going to be kind of a calibration game for Baltimore. But it's going to be just as much of a calibration game for the Jets. They've got some tools. They've made some big reloads. They've added some big guns to the chamber, or big rounds to the chamber. And I think this is going to be a good learning experience for the Jets, whether they win or not.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see if Zach Wilson's going to be able to make it. The expectation is that Flacco is going to start this week, but it's all about the young core with the Jets building. This year is not going to be the year that they're going to contend, but if you're going to contend next year or the year after, you've got to see growth from Zach Wilson. You've got to see Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver they just drafted, come in and be good. Be that guy that they expect him to be. One of the best route runners in the league is what he's projected to be. Brees Hall, another young guy that they drafted, they expect to be a weapon on offense. That's what it is for the Jets. They've got a brand new head coach. Last year he got hired and they drafted a quarterback, but it's one of those things where they are, as you said, they've been loading up on a lot of young talent, and you're going to watch for that growth this year. And it's going to be projecting into next year. And, of course, for the Ravens, it's going to be Lamar Jackson's health, absolutely. And how much that offense kind of evolves back into what it was with the multiple tight end sets and Lamar Jackson work in the middle of the field a lot. I think that's what we're going to see a bunch from the Ravens. They're going to get back to what made them successful in 19 and 20 before they tried to go with some outside weapons with Hollywood Brown. So this should be a tune-up game. This should be the Ravens kind of setting the tone for their season. But it's also a good measuring stick for the Jets. How can they measure up to a contender, really, in the AFC with that young roster?
Yeah, and potentially somebody they could be seeing in the wild card.
Sure.
So, all right, onward. Jags and Commanders. I mean, come on.
I won't lie, I waffled. I just don't have trust. I picked Washington to win the division, but I'm still that jaded fan that I've always been.
Well, and the Jags have always had this like anomaly game where they'll just fucking whip up on somebody.
Knock the Colts out of the playoffs last year.
Yeah, exactly. So this is what I'm talking about, is the Jags have just done shit at times. And yeah, and so it's entirely possible, but, Washington is in good hands.
Yeah, I'm liking more and more some of the moves that were made this offseason. And I was very vocal about the Jahan Dotson draft pick, and I'm still a little mad that we didn't take Chris Olave. I thought him and TMC were going to be a really good combination if we had drafted Olave. But everything I'm hearing and everything I've seen so far in the preseason with Jahan Dotson, he is the guy that they said he was going to be. So we may have a guy in Jahan Dotson, and we're able to get a little extra draft capital by trading back. Carson Wentz, it's going to 100%. Washington's success or failure this year is going to 100% come down to can they put Carson Wentz in positions to succeed? And can he then take advantage of those opportunities? Because he's got the most and the best weapons he's ever had in his career, bar none. Colts fans, I'm sorry, you've got no wide receivers out there. You had Jonathan Taylor for sure, but you've got nothing for him to throw to. The Eagles, they had Alshon Jeffrey, who is not Terry McLaurin. He was fine as a possession guy. They've got Curtis Samuel here, Logan Thomas, a really good tight end, probably top 5, top 6 in the league. That should have a good running game, and Gibson should be able to hold down the fort till Robinson comes back from the unfortunate incident. And Brian Robinson looked like a real budding star at the running back position in the preseason. So if Carson Wentz is going to succeed and revitalize his career in the NFL, it's going to be this season, or he's probably going to be a career backup if he doesn't succeed with the situation he's in here in Washington. If he flounders and doesn't get this team closer into the playoffs, I think that the writing is going to be on the wall for Carson Wentz, despite the fact that I don't think he was the only issue in Indy last year. But if he doesn't succeed this year, it's the writing's on the wall.
Fucking just the next Nick Foles in line.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
How poetic would that be?
I think the biggest thing is my big question. I think Colin's on the whole Carson Wentz bandwagon hatred thing, and guys like Arlovsky are still trying to tell people like he's a good quarterback. He's just not. He's not Tom Brady, right? So Colin likes to have hot takes too a little bit sometimes. So I think he gets a little more bombastic about things at times than he may want to be. But he really doesn't like Carson Wentz fucking at all. One thing that I'm going to be paying attention to early in the season, obviously he's not going to play in this game or the first 4 games of the season, but Chase Young, is he ever going to get back to what they expected him to be? Is he going to become a hard worker? Is he going to get back to being a leader in that locker room? Because last year wasn't a good year, even before the injury. So got to see him turn that corner, start to tune out some of the extracurriculars. It's the same thing we saw with RG3 with all the endorsements and everything else.
I mean, I'm with you to an extent, but for fuck's sake, like, he was so young into it, man. Like, I do believe you got to give these kids time.
Oh,
you know
sure.
what I mean, sure. And Chase Young has the potential to be a fucking, an absolute, like, a pillar in that organization from a defensive standpoint. He could be a DeMarcus Ware if you need him to be, and that's what you want.
That's the level of potential he's got. I just want to see him make good on it.
Yeah, same. Absolutely. All right, on to Kansas City. Unanimous here against the Cards at home.
Did you have any second thoughts picking the Chiefs?
No.
Me neither. I wonder if Andy did. I think early in the season, the Cardinals are very gettable because I don't love Hollywood Brown. I don't love Rondale Moore, and they don't have DeAndre Hopkins. And I think Zach Ertz, Father Time started to catch up last year, and we may see a little more of that this year. So I think until they get Nuke back, they're going to struggle a bit on offense, and it's going to be Kyler scrambling a lot trying to make plays. So for me, every drive I saw Mahomes on the field with Kansas City made me realize, like, maybe they're not going to miss Tyreek Hill as much as I thought they would. He scored a touchdown, I think, on every fucking drive he had in the preseason. So
I don't think, and I've definitely tried to support the Cards this year in their performance in the conference. I think I've spoken for them quite a bit, but and I've even spoken against the Chiefs to even say that they won't even secure a wild card spot. But I think that matchup, there's nothing confident that I have about that offense because of my lack of confidence with Kyler. But for the Chiefs, it's because of my confidence in Pat Mahomes that I give them you know what I mean? It's polar opposites, and because of that, it's a clean cut decision. The Chiefs are gonna, so no hesitation. All right, on to Oakland, and no surprise here.
Not Oakland anymore.
Sorry. On to what should be the San Antonio Raiders, but I'm just saying it goes with the Spurs, silver and black. I'm just saying
it does, absolutely.
I know they talked about it, but anyways, Las Vegas Raiders. No surprise there. I'm on an island, and I'm fine with that. I am fine with that. I think that we're going to see early dividends come out of this Devontae Connect. I do. I really do. And I know that that's saying a lot against this LA defense. That is saying a lot because they're monstrous and they're fucking evil people. And Justin Herbert, on top of that, is
The
an absolute
silent assassin.
He just doesn't talk. He just fucking tutties and completions.
Yeah, for
Pizzas
sure.
in the fucking oven. All right. So, do you see? What are you looking to see from LA to feel confident in them taking that treacherous division?
Yeah, for sure. I've got to see Mac and Bosa gel early in the year to make me feel confident that that defense is really going to be what they can be. They went and they made the big trade. They've got some superstars. We'll talk about Mahomes in a minute. I do think that is going to be part of the offense, but we'll circle back to that in just a moment. For LA, it's that, right? It's the defensive side of the ball because I think they're going to be able to score plenty. You mentioned Herbert. Mike Williams has become, kind of a borderline star at the wide receiver position. Keenan Allen is maybe the most steady Eddie fucking player on the planet that nobody ever talks about. If you've ever owned him in fantasy, you just know that you're getting 5 catches, 90 yards, and potentially a touchdown every week from him. I've had him 2 consecutive years, and he's been a stalwart for me in terms of fantasy production. So he's a guy that he's a nice security blanket for Herbert when he gets in any trouble. And then the health of Eckler could have a little bit of a say in how successful that offense is going to be. But even last year with Eckler nicked up, they were fucking prolific as shit. So I look at the defensive side of the ball. Are they going to be able to put those pieces together that they brought in this offseason? Because it's not just Mac. They brought in some DB pieces. They brought in some linebacker pieces that they're going to want to get on the same page early in the year. This wasn't an easy pick for me. I like the Raiders. I'm on the record as saying I like what they're doing. I do think that Carr is going to have a great season with Adams and Waller and Renfro. And Josh McDaniels coming in is going to help him with matchups. But I just think this Chargers team is loaded for bear. And, maybe a little contrary to what I said with Sirianni being able to manage everything in Philly, I think that Brandon Staley has that locker room. He has it because of some of the things we saw last year with him, the decisions he made and the team backing him on those. I think that Staley's going to have a little easier time bringing together the big personalities on the defensive side of the ball because he's a defensive guy than Sirianni might in Philly. And I could, obviously we'll see how it plays out. But I think the Chargers early in the year, we're going to see them start to show everybody, hey, we're here to play and we're ready to be on the big stage.
Absolutely. I think
I'm just getting that up. We'll come back to that after.
All right. I think we should move on to a great NFC North matchup.
Yeah, real quick on the Mahomes thing. I do think the offense is going to look different. It's going to be a lot more underneath. Travis Kelce, I think, is going to get 100, 110, 115 catches this year. A name to keep in your mind is Sky Moore, guy who he can take the top off the defense. He's no Tyreek Hill, but he could be somebody who they, see as that deep threat. McCole Hardman, maybe. But I do think you're going to see Mahomes have to be more patient. We saw that in the preseason, too, where he methodically moved down the field. I think he had 2 drives over 10 plays in the preseason. So I do think that's what we're going to see.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he'll have a choice but to go shorter, though.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And unanimous here, Vikings at home against the Packers division rivalry.
I was mildly surprised about this being
that's fair
unanimous, but then I remember we all kind of talked about that this is the year that the Packers are gettable, and I think it starts here in week 1. Minnesota's home. Kirk Cousins has got a new head coach, but it's a guy he's familiar with. Everybody's healthy on the offensive side of the ball for Minnesota. I just think that
there's not a lot of gelling in Green Bay.
Yeah, I worry a little bit about Aaron and the young wide receivers and how much he's got to trust them. You
Yeah,
know, I
he's a
think
very
they
impatient babysitter.
very, and I think they go a little bit deep with veteran guys, but who are those veteran guys? It's Randall Cobb, who's way over the hill. It's Sammy Watkins, who's kind of on the precipice of being over the hill, and Alan Lazard, who hasn't necessarily been the most available player over the last few years. So I do think that they're going to find some speed bumps early in the year. They may rely on the running game a lot more this year than they have in the past. But again, if anybody's going to be able to carry a fucking shit wide receiver core to the promised land, it's probably Mr. Ayahuasca himself.
Mr. fucking Waska. But yeah, so I mean, ultimately, I think for me, it's not an easy victory, but I think for a division rivalry, it's going to be a good game. I think that the Vikings definitely have the edge, not only because of the resources at their disposal, but they're also at home. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a great way for the Vikings to open up their season and potentially see some Kirk magic, some more you like that. You know what the New York Giants are not going to like is playing the Titans at home, as we're all unanimous there. We believe in the king,
The mutant.
the mutant, the man, the myth, the legend, being continuing to
Yeah.
just like, you know, stiff arm dudes into different dimensions and such.
He don't need ayahuasca to send you to another dimension.
Yeah, no, he can get you there, dog. That's a poisonous ass frog. I'm just saying. Isn't that what that ayahuasca is? It's like something like poison coming off of a frog's back or something like that.
No, it's a plant, but the term they use for it is a plant teacher. So Derrick Henry's stiff arm is apparently a plant teacher.
Oh yeah, dude. He'll
I mean,
send you back,
it will plant your ass, that's for sure.
dude.
Ask
Ask Josh Norman.
And Josh Norman.
Absolute savagery.
For sure.
I mean, obvious calibration there for the Titans. The Giants have plenty to work on, but I mean, I just feel like for me, there's not anything interesting for me to look at here until we see some more come out of this Titans offense, dude. And I think it's going to happen one day, but I think with Tannehill at the helm,
Aaron, that's so fucking true.
facts.
Ron Waska.
Ron Waska.
Yep. I think if you're the Giants, you got to figure out if Daniel Jones is going to be the guy. Can Dable salvage Daniel Jones? I don't think so, but that's kind of the only question I think they have for this season. Maybe you're looking at Saquon Barkley. Is he going to be healthy? But on the other side of the ball, this is a litmus test. Can the Titans have any sort of passing game now that A.J. Brown's gone? What's Bobby Trees going to be for them? You know, in terms of that big free agent signing, is Traylon Burks going to be able to get up to speed within the offense? But the biggest litmus test, I think, for the Titans is going to be the health of Derrick Henry's foot. And he looked fine in the playoffs last year when he came back. They were obviously a little bit behind the eight ball with, facing the fucking Tiger King. But if Derrick Henry is what Derrick Henry's been the last few years, I think the Titans are going to be fine. And if you're playing daily fantasy, Aaron, play any defense playing the Giants, because Daniel Jones is going to give you about 4 fumbles and a couple of picks and then trip himself at the 10-yard line going into the end zone.
Well, and honestly, there's a few teams like that. There's a few teams like that. As long as you see the matchup and it's like, oh, you know what? They're playing the fucking Bears. You better just double down.
Yeah. But I think if you're playing daily fantasy, get Derrick Henry, because that Giants run defense is not going to be good. He may go for $180 and 2 or 3 tutties. So whatever the price is, Derrick Henry's the play in week 1.
Facts. This is going to be light work for the man.
Yeah.
All right, a conference rivalry here. Bucks, Cowboys. And Gary going with the Bucks. I feel like he did go safe here. I'm not really surprised to see Andy pick the Cowboys. I'm kind of surprised that I picked the Cowboys. I was
surprised you did.
I really waffled on this one.
Is it the home game?
No, I'm freaked out by the weird shit coming out of Bucks camp.
Okay, that's fair.
Just everything that we've seen over the last month has been very bizarre, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say that Tom Brady's not in it, but I definitely feel like his performance, his presence or lack thereof in the locker room has shaken that shit up. And
That's fair.
there's no doubt that they have fucking Julio Jones, dude.
Dude, he's your
I
ninth
can't,
option.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Like, just as a Julio Jones fan, I can't wait to see him catch these fucking ropes, dude, from Tom Brady. I'm so pumped. I'm so happy for Julio. What a great, like, fucking Twilight team.
Right.
Fuck.
What a send off.
But the Cowboys are going to take it. They're going to take it at home. And I'm confident that they're going to be able to do so. And I think they're going to take advantage of a not quite fully invested Tom Brady, and that's a hell of a thing to say, because at one point in time I would believe that a not so invested Tom Brady could still beat half of the NFL. So
let me ask you this: Do you think this is the year we're going to see Dak start to beat these good teams, these playoff teams? Because it starts here in week 1, right? They're playing a team that's expected to be in the playoffs, and to be honest, Dak's record against even just above 500 teams is pretty paltry over his career. If they're going to win the division, if they're going to make any sort of run in the playoffs, he's obviously got to start performing better against these teams. Is that what gives you confidence in this? You think Dak is going to, or do you think it's going to be an opportunistic defense? 36 turnovers last year. Are you going to see an opportunistic defense take advantage of a Tom Brady who isn't fully invested, as you just mentioned a moment ago?
Yeah, I definitely think that we're going to see our defense take advantage of a not ready Tom Brady. And then on top of that, I mean, look, our corners and our safeties are going to be fucking busy. Okay, they've got a lot of shit to look after in the secondary, and so this is going to be a exactly. You know, we talked about it last week with kind of like this new version of Tom Brady, and this is why I'm not a fan of that. Is because we don't know how he's going to perform. Sure, he can get shithoused. I don't care about him throwing the Lombardi. That's whatever. But like it's game impacting shit. Like, you know, not checking into to training camp and the fucking obvious plastic surgery. Like, it's just there's something.
Do you put any stock in the fact that the 11-day absence was planned? Do you think that the locker room, they can get over and get past the absence? It came at a bad time. I will not at all argue that it came in the middle of camp, I
think it could absolutely be something that blows over and they go to another Super Bowl and Tom Brady gets another ring. I think that's entirely possible. It's the idea that it's the first time it's happened.
Yeah.
And this also, yeah. And also,
do you think it's going to be a bigger thing than just blowing over?
I think that tonight's going to decide it. I think week 1 will absolutely decide it.
Sure.
Unlike the week 1 loss to the Buccaneers will not decide Dallas's season. It just means that they lost to Tom fucking Brady and that amazing offense.
Right. 100%.
So fine. But if the Bucs lose to the Cowboys, that is like, it's still up in the air to say that, okay, Tom Brady could absolutely still recover, but it's definitely proof that there's a shake, that there's something wrong, and that there's, you know, that's exactly it. Gang. Oh my God. Shout out Miko. That's what it is. My man's BBL got him distracted. So with that being said, it's Cowboys Nation. I think they're gonna knock it out. I really do. I think they're gonna put a hurting on Tom Brady and they're gonna shake shit up, and then we're gonna get to see Colin and Skip and Shannon and Stephen A. Smith to fucking lose their mind. Can you imagine? Can you imagine Stephen A. Smith's face?
Oh yeah. You know, for me, I think that this game is one that I think we're going to see the value of Tyron Smith really shine through. I could absolutely see the Buccaneers in the backfield against Dak all day. And for me, that's when Dak has his biggest problems. Most quarterbacks do, but when Dak feels pressure from the outside, he really does get rattled. And I don't know that they're going to be able to run the ball and kind of neutralize that, because the Bucs run defense without having to overload the boxes has been really good the last couple of years. Top 2, top 3, top 4, and I just think that that defense is going to neutralize the Cowboys offense. And then defensively for the Cowboys, I think they're going to struggle with the size of the Bucs, but also Chris Godwin's going to be back. And Chris Godwin is kind of the straw that stirs that drink on the offensive side of the ball. So for me, it's kind of the combination of those two things that led me to, Tampa taking this game. And of course, it's Tom Brady and, the offseason distractions. I don't put as much stock in them as, it seems some others are, because I do believe that as soon as he's in that locker room, as soon as he's on quote unquote campus, he's 100% football. And if anybody can kind of separate and deal with distractions, I assume it's the guy that's won 7 fucking Super Bowls.
Yeah, I do feel like there comes a limit with compartmentalizing, but I also feel like I also feel like there's also not even looking at Tom Brady, the impact that has on the team, because now you have this like fly-by-night legend leading your team on the offense. And so some people are going to have doubts. I think that some people are going to probably be uncomfortable, and maybe the locker room talk is that it's Tom Brady, we fucking trust him. But there's a lot of uncertainty that someone of a Tom Brady caliber has never presented this kind of doubt or uncertainty in a locker room. And so the idea that it's happening just following his unretirement, it's it seems more like a whimsical venture, I think, because of his behavior.
Tom has always kind of lived a very private, personal life. Like he doesn't pull the curtain back very much. So,
but not game impacting.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So I do see how people can look at this and say it could be a big deal. I'm not putting that much stock in it, to be honest. When you can line up,
we don't know.
When you can line up 6'5", 6'4", 6'4", 6'3", 6'2", 6'1" on the offensive side of the ball and say, come get some, I think they're going to be okay on the offensive side. I just look at it that way. Yeah. And then when Gronk comes back, add another 6'3" to that.
Jesus Christ. All right, so let's go to our final game, Monday Night Football. Broncos Nation. Broncos country. Let's ride.
Let's ride.
Against his alma mater.
Of course.
Oh, man.
It's almost like the NFL does these things on purpose. Deshaun Watson comes back against the Texans, and
Panthers,
Russ Wilson opens the season against the Sea Chickens, and of course, if Baker Mayfield opens the season against the Browns, right? So
all we really needed was Raiders Packers, and it
right,
been complete.
Yeah, for sure. Did you have any hesitation on this one? The Seahawks aren't going to be good, right?
No, because I mean, who's your guy? Geno?
I think the only intrigue in Seattle this year is going to be fantasy value. What's DK do every week, and what's Tyler Lockett do every week? I think that's really it.
Yeah, but I think,
and maybe Noah Fant if you still think he's kind of quarterback proof. But
I feel like if I'm choosing between the two, I'm still going with DK, and I'm choosing between two waiver wire picks, or some.
You think DK is a waiver wire guy?
I just feel like because of the offensive,
because of the quarterback.
Yeah, because of the quarterback, the guy that's going to throw to him, and I don't.
I hope that's not true because I drafted him in 2 leagues thinking he's quarterback proof. I hope you're wrong. I hope you're wrong, or else it's going to be a long fantasy season.
You know what? He is one of the most versatile receivers we've seen.
You don't have
long time.
You feel better about it.
No, because I am kind of reneging because I feel bad because I'm such a DK Metcalf fan.
You are. I'm surprised you're saying that. But
I hate that I'm saying it.
I understand what you mean by the quarterback position, though. It's not good up there. It's not. Your choices are Geno Smith, and I have to admit I'm eating my hat on Drew Lock here. He just hasn't been able to put it together. Dude, the guy can throw a strawberry through a fucking battleship and a fucking football through a donut, but he can't play quarterback.
Yeah, but he can't throw his ego to the side and play a fucking football game.
He's this era's fucking Jeff George, dude.
Dude, and I've been on this hate train since Mizzou, Texas, when they got their fucking shit pushed in, dude. Anyways,
Yeah.
let's move on. Let's
Yeah.
fucking move on. This is too much. Getting my goddamn blood pressure up. All right, let's get over to the most important part of our segment. This is our Folds of Honor salute to service. This episode is going to be dedicated to Sergeant First Class Jeremy Griffin, who passed away September 16th, 2019, serving during Operation Freedom Sentinel. He was 40 years old from Greenbrier, Tennessee. He was killed by small arms fire when his unit was engaged in combat operations in Wardak Province, Afghanistan. He was assigned to the 3rd Battalion, 1st Special Forces Group, Airborne Joint Base, Lewis McChord, Washington. He was posthumously awarded the Bronze Star Medal and the Purple Heart. Sergeant First Class Jeremy Griffin. We have the watch. That's a bad motherfucker.
That's a bad dude.
That's a bad dude.
That's a bad dude.
Green Beret. When you read
sometimes you just see like the commendations or the service record, or and you're just like, dude, I want to go to war with that guy.
You know what I mean?
That's a bad man. So not to get too
communication sergeant.
Yeah. Not to get too sidetracked, but
he was a Green Beret, savage.
Not to get too sidetracked, but when I was on LIMDU for my shoulder surgery before I came to CAR, I was out in San Diego, and I ended up on limited duty. I got sent to the galley at Naval Base Coronado. And for those that don't know, that's where SEAL training buds, right, is. And you see all these Navy SEAL recruits and candidates come through. And then, of course, the Navy SEAL instructors come through, and they're the coolest fucking dudes. Like, they all look like they're just like these hard-ass, untouchable, unapproachable people, but they are just like regular dudes that just kill things for a living in the most fucking precise and tactical ways. But when you get them kind of quote unquote cornered for a conversation, they're awesome. And when one of these dudes came through, and I heard one of the other dudes call him body count, and I immediately had that look on my face. Immediately, I'm like, motherfucker, how do you earn that? I mean, obviously, I know how you earn that nickname, right? So I made it my mission to eventually figure out what got him that nickname. And apparently, it comes down to they got kind of ambushed on some bad intel, and he like slayed dudes, dragged his own guys out of this fucking bunker that got ambushed and shit. Took a few rounds himself and was still dragging dudes. Like, he was the baddest fucking dude on the planet. Body count. What a fucking nickname.
Oh, body count, dude. I would have quietly died if I was in that room. Yeah. I've joked about it, but it's true when you deal with people like that. When you interact with folks like that who worn a trident or Green Beret, Rangers, so on and so forth, MARSOC guys.
Yep.
There is just this like unspoken, almost like subconscious kind of fucking aura of death around them. Like, you just know that they're threatening, and it's not because they're not these like physically intimidating people. Especially Navy SEALs are often like 5'8" to 5'10".
Very small guys because they have to get through the rigorous training.
Their beard is fierce, I'm sure, for the most part, but like, you talk to them and they're super chill, but there is this like understanding that this man is light years ahead of you in every way possible. Yep. And that's a threat.
Yeah. I'm being really cool with you right now, but in my head, I've already killed you 7 times in 7 different ways. Yeah. Just in case things pop off.
Yeah, I just kind of look at it like whenever I'm in the presence of like if I was in the presence of like Stephen Hawking, someone that like I know is significantly smarter than me, but like also can kill me at the same time. It's
Yeah,
just, the intellect associated with those guys is insane.
yeah,
So,
for sure.
um, all right, so let's move into our bag, dude. We got to. We're in our fucking bag, folks. Be sure to submit your questions for next episode when we review week 1 and make our week 2 picks. This week we got a question in our bag from Mr. Ty Havernack from the Rosenbaggers podcast. Be sure to check it out tomorrow night following Tailgate Trash Talk. Ty Havernack asks, with the new coaching staff in Minnesota and all the weapons on that offense, is it reasonable to expect that Kirk Cousins to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback? Gary, I'm gonna go ahead and answer first so I can just get out of your way, so that you can, take this time to go ahead and put on your knee pads and be ready. So the answer is yes, ultimately, because of not just him as a talent on offense, and I say talent very loosely. He is barely a top 10 quarterback, if any, in the NFC or in the NFL. And when we've had this conversation, I've shown my math. I've done my top 10. Um, but a top 5 fantasy quarterback, I think he absolutely could be because of the amount of resources he has. And I'm obviously you have to take the running game out of it, but he is a passing threat as well. But Adam Thielen does shit to offenses, and he does shit to that offense, and he does shit to your fantasy leagues. He wrecks shop, and somebody has to fucking feed him that pigskin, and that man goes by the name of Kirk Cousins. And so, yeah, with that being said, 100% that we could see Kirk Cousins be a top 5 fantasy quarterback. Is he a top 5 quarterback performance-wise? Nah. But
That's
in the
fair.
fantasy
Listen,
world, it works.
you've made the right distinction, right? And 10 is, even as the resident Kirk Cousins guy, 10 is getting harder because of the young guys, right? Herbert, Burrow, Mahomes obviously has become a fucking supernova in his first few years in the league. Lamar Jackson, these young guys, Kyler Murray's even on the fringe of just being that guy. You look at from last year's class, if Trevor Lawrence figures it out, Mac Jones is probably going to win a bunch of games and get in that conversation because of that. So, yeah, absolutely. If we're arguing top 10 quarterbacks that are going to carry a team, then Cousins probably does end up on the outside looking in. I think I've got him closer to 11 or 12 now, with the revelations of these young guys. So I will concede that. I do think that Kirk Cousins could absolutely be a top 5 fantasy quarterback this year because everything that you mentioned, in addition to the fact that Kevin O'Connell is a pass first, pass often, work off of play action type of coach. He's a Sean McVay disciple. He's a Jay Gruden disciple. He's a Kyle Shanahan in the long run, Mike Shanahan disciple. A lot of stretch stuff, a lot of boots, a lot of move in the pocket. And those are the things that Kirk Cousins succeeds at. Those are the things that Kevin Stefanski didn't do a lot of when Kirk Cousins was still a good quarterback when he was the OC in Minnesota before he went to Cleveland. Even the last 2 years while Stefanski was in Cleveland, with a coaching staff that was just 1, disheveled, 2, dysfunctional, and 3, disagreeing with the fact that they had a quarterback that could win them games, he still he was 11th last year in fantasy points. All right. And for context, on top of that, Aaron, I do like Irv as a potential breakout at tight end this year. Obviously, old boy went to Tampa, and his name's eluding me right now, but Notre Dame product and went down to Tampa. Irv is the guy this year. But I get back to what Kirk's going to do this year. It's just how many weapons he's got. Irv Smith is one of the most athletic tight ends in football. I think that Dalvin Cook's a really good pass catching back out of the backfield, and they're going to utilize that a lot. Play action off the stretch game and hit him with a backside screen, that sort of stuff. It's just those things that operate within this offense that are going to propel Kirk from 11th. He finished 40 points behind 5th place last year. Okay, so if we're looking at top 5, 40 points behind 5th place last year. He played one less game. If you look at his average points per game last year in terms of fantasy, standard ESPN scoring, of course, he was 20 points behind if he had played all 17 games. He played one less game than 5th place, would have finished with projections 20 points behind. For me, just the change in philosophy on offense, he's going to throw for probably 3 to 5 more touchdowns and maybe 3 to 5 more 100 yards, which is going to get him those 40, 50, 60 points. That's going to make a difference in terms of getting him into that top 5. So for me, on top of the fact that Minnesota is going to be a very successful team this year, I think Kirk Cousins is going to be top 5 fantasy quarterback this year. And if you've got him in fantasy leagues, you're going to enjoy watching his success on a weekly basis. He's got, you mentioned Thielen. He's got Justin Jefferson, who might be one of the, 3 best wide receivers in football.
Him and Jamar Chase are keeping it close.
Right there. And then you've got Cooper Kupp's kind of in the argument, DeAndre Hopkins when he's available. It's just, it's wild to think about. And of course, there's other names that we're not mentioning, but Justin Jefferson is a fucking world beater. So he's got too many weapons to not be a stellar fantasy quarterback this year. I do think he's going to finish in, or at least really close to, the top 5.
Absolutely. He's definitely got plenty of weapons as at his disposal. And the Dalvin Cook's comment about him on, a quick little screen pass, it's just, all
the
day.
Damage he does when getting the ball in a handoff. Imagine just getting it to him on the edge in a screen pass more often.
Yeah.
Because that's what this offensive scheme does.
The short game is going to be solid. I mean, not just between that, but Dalvin, Thielen, all of them, bubble screens, Y options. You've got everything at your disposal with that offense. So we'll see Kirk succeed there from a fantasy perspective.
Yep, absolutely.
So, all right, man. Well, you got anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to cover?
Football's back, baby. Football's back. If you're not glued, it feels real good. If you're not glued to your TV Thursday night, obviously we're looking at kind of a new crew calling the games in the booth. We've got a lot more players in the game this year too. Herb Street's getting into the NFL. Troy and Joe have changed teams, right? Broadcast teams, and eventually we're going to see Tom Brady in the booth doing games. That'll be fun. The Manning cast stuff and all that. It's getting interesting with the way these cable companies are displaying the game and presenting it to us fans. So
I do feel like they're finally starting to listen. I mean, the fans are finally starting to have the fruits of the labor of their voice. You know what I mean? The Manning cast is fire. I feel like Pat McAfee has a role in NFL coverage, in mainstream NFL coverage, because he is and he can cover the 16-year-old fuckboy novice NFL player fan all the way up to the late 30s, 40s, 50s who just appreciates the good bro don. Pat's the truth. So
yeah, for sure. He's getting footage this year too for listeners, not to promote another podcast, but he's getting footage rights this year. So you're gonna, if you watch on YouTube, you're gonna be able to see him breaking down film. D-Butt's gonna be breaking down film. It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be good shit. I actually spent my weekend on top of watching the college football happen this weekend, which I can't wait to watch tomorrow's Tailgate Trash Talk. Be sure to check that one out tomorrow night.
A lot of fucking good shit from this weekend.
I was watching the PDGA World Championships happen.
Yeah, buddy.
Great weekend. Comes into, this is 5-round tournament. And then, of course, my guy Calvin Heimberg is the dude who I'm an absolute, just like a diehard fan of. Makes it to lead card final round. He's wearing championship white out on the tee, and he's got a great card with him. Matty O, who's a multi-time Southern national champion, looking for his first major title. Aaron Gossage, his first time on a lead card, I believe, in a major title. And then you have 5-time world champion Paul McBeth again on the lead stage. It comes down to a 2-horse race at the end of the championship. In the championship round, it comes down to Aaron Gossage and Paul McBeth exchanging the lead there at the end. Aaron Gossage has a missed putt on 16. Paul McBeth chains in a 69-foot putt to tie it all up.
Fucking savagery. 69-foot putt.
69-foot putt.
Savage.
With a Luna. This is an old McPro AVR collector here from back when he was with Innova, which he won 4 titles with. But anyways, they end up forcing a playoff. It's an island hole, hole 16. It's 320 feet, I believe, and the island itself is maybe 40 feet in diameter. And so they've got to land it out. It's surrounded by a pond. And so it is literally an island hole. So they go to throw this shot. Aaron Gossage has to throw first. He throws out of bounds. And so he has one last shot for par to make it from the drop zone as Paul McBeth sticks it, which is poetic because last year it came down to a playoff between Paul McBeth and James Conrad. And Paul McBeth did not make the island. He went out of bounds and lost his 6th opportunity at a world championship. And so anyways, he ends up sealing the deal to become Paul McBeth 6-time world champion with Discraft champion disc. Absolutely amazing performance by all those guys. It was a lot of fun to watch. So yeah, be sure to tune into that if you follow the Disc Golf World. Good, plenty of shit to talk about there. And the season is not over yet. We got USDGC coming up soon. Lots of people still that may have qualified based off of that. We're trying to link up with a couple local disc golfers as well as some disc golf podcasts here in the future to be able to talk about that stuff as the season comes into its last quarter.
Nice, Aaron.
Oh, yes. Gotta love it. Dove season opening up down in South Texas. Gotta love it. I had a couple friends of mine go down south and kill some dove this weekend. Oh man, I'm itching for it. I just need a little bit of bacon, some rub, and the Traeger, and I'm just wrapping them shits up, and I'm just setting and forgetting it.
They're super invasive down there in Texas, ain't they?
They're super dumb. They're real. I mean, I'm not saying that they're easy to kill, but they are very dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Fucking
shit.
Delicious, though.
Yeah? I've never eaten dove.
Delicious.
Even
Absolutely.
being a country boy, I've had like partridge and quail and stuff like that. I've never ate dove.
I've had quail, never had partridge. Aside from like the
partridge is fucking gamey.
As far as like I only knew it existed in A Christmas Carol. I wasn't even really sure it was real. I was 2 years old when I figured that out.
It's a Northeast thing, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
We had them up in New York. My uncle used to shoot
never
them.
Heard of them.
Yeah, my uncle used to shoot them up off his land. He had some land up near a pipeline, out kind of way out of the north.
Place to go shooting.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, hopefully it's protected or underground. I don't know.
It's underground.
Anyways, so from all of us here at Backyard Sports, we appreciate you guys tuning in to Backyard Blitz. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday when we're going to debrief week 1 and we're going to start diving into week 2. You'll see some more full content there. If you have questions and you want to help us get in our bag every week like we want to, be sure to submit your questions. DM it to us. You can comment on anything you see on our social media. We will be sure to read it out, shout you out if you want to be shouted out. And Cat Facts, all of the shit's coming back. The team's going to be coming through all throughout every single week. We got college tailgate trash talk tomorrow. We got the rosin baggers. We got content for whatever your sport needs might be. So be sure to tune in, backyardsportsmedia.com/shop as well. Another one as well. Be sure to check it in if you want to check in some of the brand as you see here in the corner. My name is Raul Herrera. I got Gary Freeze with me, Backyard Sports Media, Backyard Blitz. Fucking out of here. Have a good night.